Good evening. Thank you all so much for attending the monthly Minority Caucus meeting. Today is Monday, November 9th, 2020. I welcome you all here, and I think I do detect a quorum. So thank you all for being here. We got a number of guests with us today, and I know Councilmember Stiles was responsible for the invites to a couple of people here. I also know that the mayor's office is here. Mike Jameson, I see, is on the call in order to give us some update about the recent action taken as it related to the referendum. And I think that we probably should allow him um, to go first and give that update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me all right?
I do. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. So we, of course, received good news a week ago, Friday, on Tuesday, regarding the charter amendment. Judge Ellen Hobbs Lyle rendered a decision late in the afternoon with a 52-page memorandum, and she, I think it's fair to say, did not pull any punches. She ruled that the plaintiff's ballot petition in each part, all 5 parts, was legally defective. And in fact, on the first page of her decision, she came out swinging, stating that it was wholly defective in form and facially unconstitutional and would create an impermissible form of government in Tennessee. Bottom line is that her decision enjoined or prohibited the referendum election from going forward on December 15th. That's the good news. In a technical sense, the lawsuit is still alive. I would say just barely, but it is still alive. And the reason for that is that what the court did was it took up the major portion of the case and ruled on it, and that was whether the petition amendment was eligible to go on the ballot. But the court did postpone the trial on some other parts of the lawsuit. Namely, the plaintiffs were claiming that the Metropolitan government and the Election Commission had violated their constitutional rights. We are confident, Metro Legal Director Bob Cooper is confident that those will be dismissed, but if asked, we do have to acknowledge that technically the lawsuit is still going on. So I'll summarize by saying that the plaintiffs at this point have 3 options. Number 1, they could seek what they would call an interlocutory appeal. Generally, in a lawsuit, you have to wait until the entire thing is over before you can appeal it. The court doesn't want you bringing up pieces at a time. They want you to wait until the whole thing is over. But they'll allow you occasionally to take an appeal of just one part, and that would be on this portion about whether it can be placed on the ballot. That interlocutory appeal requires special permission from both the trial court and the appellate court. That's hard to get, but also, more importantly, time is just running out for a December 15th election. As I think most everybody on this call probably knows, you can't just schedule an election the day before. A lot of work goes into them. There's a lot of preliminary work in terms of getting them scheduled, and the courts recognize that the Election Commission can't turn on a dime. But that's option 1, is an interlocutory appeal. Option 2 is the plaintiffs could go ahead and ask that the rest of their case be tried, and if they lose, then take up the appeal once the final ruling on the whole case is over. That would not be speedy. It would take a couple of months, and we also think would be very difficult. The last option is that the plaintiffs could just abandon this effort and possibly try again with another petition to amend the charter. This time, of course, they'll have a 51-page memorandum from the court telling them everything that was wrong with the first one, so they'll have a roadmap. But the interesting thing will be, as you know, to get a petition amending the charter on the ballot, you have to get signatures that are equal to 10% of the turnout at the last general election. So this last time they were using this past August turnout, which was like 400,000. And now that number, as you can imagine, shot up enormously during the presidential election. And that has greatly increased the number of signatures they would have to get. I think it's close to 30,000 signatures just to get onto the ballot. So it's a higher hurdle. And again, that likely wouldn't even take place until next year. So it's technically still going on. We're not too worried about it. And those are the options left to the plaintiffs. So we expect to ultimately prevail.
Great. Thank you so very much for that update. I will entertain questions for Ms. or have Mr. Jameson entertain any questions at this time, but I do have one question. It seems as though that there was not much push from the mayor's office to refute this effort by those who were pushing for the referendum. And it seemed to me that it would have been most helpful to educate the community and speak about it and how detrimental it would have been had it become on the ballot and the judge had a different outcome. So is there any particular reason why there was no real push?
Well, I would slightly push back on that. We did have organized a citizens group. We recognized at the outset that it was not a coordinated effort that could be done out of the mayor's office. There are election law restrictions on what can be run out of a public office, so we had to rely on citizens groups. The mayor could certainly express opinions and participate, but it could not be run out of his office. We had formulated and helped organize a citizens group that was just taking hold. I will be candid and note that hanging over his head the entire time was the notion that this may not actually ever get onto the ballot because we've got this court case, and it's always hard to know if you need to start working or not. Lastly, I will express just personally some frustration that we had with the local media when we would try to illustrate exactly what could be lost should this charter amendment prevail, and getting a little bit of traction, but not much full coverage as we had hoped or expected. But it obviously worked out well for us in the end.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Jameson? Yes, Councilmember Birch.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a question, just a statement. Just want to build upon, and I know you were hearing some of the chatter too, just out in the communities that we serve, because you're probably, if not more, out more so than I am. But the confusion as it related to the narrative and the messaging coming from government was, and I brought this up in a committee meeting as it related to the detriment of the referendum and the inconsistencies in the narrative as it related to is government spending, is government not spending. In addition to that, the unveiling of a $1 billion transit plan. So it creates a lot of confusion in the communities that we serve. Because, Mr. Jameson, for a lot of districts, nothing has happened in the last year. So I'm thankful that the referendum is where it is. But if we still have a level of uncertainty, we need the administration to really show leadership in their message so that the narrative isn't conflicting. And I understand you have some frustration with the media. From what the media expressed to me, equally, they had the same frustration with the administration, and not to put any particular outlet out there on blast, but one communicated to me was that they just couldn't get a direct answer from the administration. They couldn't get a firm position from the administration. So, Madam Chair, that's just more of my statement.
Thank you. Well, it really much aligns with my thought, because there were several platforms or meetings that I saw people from the mayor's office, from his staff, where it would have been a perfect opportunity for them to share with constituents and for the general public something regarding the referendum, and it was not mentioned at all. So, people get the impression that if you don't talk about it, then it really doesn't matter, or silence is consent. So,
Yeah, I still have people scratching their head over it.
right.
Yeah.
So, and that was just my own personal concern. So, thank you, Mr. Jameson. Are there any other questions?
Madam Chair, I can't recall because I've missed a caucus meeting or two. Has the mayor come before this caucus yet?
Yes, he did come. I think it was month before last that he
Okay.
attended.
Has he been back?
No, he has not.
Okay. I would like to, if we can, extend an invitation to the mayor coming to our next caucus meeting, because I'm getting some communications from the community. I guess he was on the radio this past Sunday. So if we can get him just to clear that he stated on the radio interview, and I didn't listen to it, so I don't know. But if we could have him come back at our next caucus meeting. Was I on the caucus meeting that he came to?
I think you were. I think you were. He was here the same meeting that we had the guys, the Hooks brothers that came out of Memphis. You remember that presentation?
I got off the meeting. Okay.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Jameson, for your update. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to be with us, and we hope you have a great weekend. I mean, a great evening. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Good night. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So we have the illustrious Judge Sheila Calloway and the ever-present and dynamic juvenile court clerk, Lionel Matthews. I know that Councilmember Stiles had invited you all to come. Councilmember Stiles, do you want to introduce them formally?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So I'm so grateful, first of all, that you both brought this concern to us so that we can address it. And Madam Chair, I'm going to let them both explain why they're here this evening and hopefully how we can assist them in their endeavor to get some things corrected that desperately need to be done. So thank you both for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Buchanan, can you give me permission to share my screen?
Yes, sir. 1 second.
All right.
As Lionel gets the video or the slideshow together, I'll just take this moment to say thank you to Councilwoman Stiles for just giving us an opportunity to come and present, and as well as Madam Chair and my birthday twin. Thank you for allowing us to be on the agenda tonight and to just give us an opportunity to talk about what is near and dear to both of our hearts, and that would be the Juvenile Justice Center.
Absolutely, and we are so happy to have you. I was really trying to yield the floor so Councilmember Styles could really go in for the two of you, but since she really didn't, I can really talk about that super dynamic and effervescent Judge Calloway in so many ways. I think it is something about that August 10th birthday that does give her that. And I mean, and the gentleman's gentleman in Mr. Lionel Matthews is just um, awesome in the way he has propelled from a student at Tennessee State University, been out there working the communities for a long time, and we're just really fortunate to have him help us as we change the way our youth are received and um, treated here in Nashville. So I don't think we could have had two better people to help us understand and deliver the kind of compassion that we must to our youth.
Thank you. Thank you. Lionel, do you want me to go ahead and start?
Yeah, if you could. It's not letting. It's saying I have to quit. So I'm gonna have to either leave and come back in order to share my screen. I'll probably have to go without the PowerPoint. But it's telling me I'm on before I could share. You want me?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. If you want to quit and come back in and catch up with me, that'll work.
Well, I just wanted to note, I mean, did you all coordinate your attire this evening that you all, did you?
They did.
Oh, man.
Didn't tell the
Always.
rest of us.
We always want to give you all our best. So yes.
I appreciate it. And, I love the pearls. You got your chucks on too. And, in honor of our new vice president-elect.
Absolutely. I had my entire pink and green outfit on today. And then I changed
Sorry.
and I changed for this occasion so that I could be appropriate for you all as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start while Lionel's trying to come back in. And just start with a few things. When you think about restorative justice, one of the tenets is those who do wrong need healing as well. And when you think about justice, what comes to mind? Now, many people think truth or right and wrong, or even crime and punishment. But what people often forget is that justice also requires healing, not only for the victims and the families, but for the offender and the community as a whole, especially when the person accused of the wrongdoing is a minor. So since 1994, we have provided thoughtful, deliberate, and good care to the Nashville's youth with less than adequate resources to work with. The current juvenile justice center is not one that encourages healing, but instead it creates additional stress and trauma, not only for the young people going through the process, but for the staff as well. Is it working now?
You give me presenter.
So it is totally unacceptable what our staff and our youth have to deal with dealing with the Juvenile Court Justice Center. There we go. Yay. Our city deserves more than the bare minimum. And right now, our juvenile justice system doesn't even have that. Lionel and I are here today to present a unique opportunity to do right by our Nashville youth and the staff who work with our youth and their families, and to also be a leader in restorative justice, juvenile justice reform, and trauma-informed care. In order to do right by our youth, we need your support. You all can make a difference when the Juvenile Justice Center is prioritized in the next capital spending budget.
Now let's see from the perspective of those who spend the most time there. Starting with the up to 40 children detained in our detention center at any given time. Children who walk through the doors of the detention center of the JJC today are not met with a space that encourages listening and healing. They are walking into a building that feels like a jail, even though not been convicted of a crime and are still awaiting a trial. Being in a jail-like environment informs the mentality of the kids, and they feel like criminals from the start. List of high priority reasons why a new juvenile justice center should be included in the next capital spending plan for Nashville, beginning with the need to reform the criminal justice system in the city and provide a more restorative environment for youth and families. In addition, on that list is the current facility and its operational and programmatic capacity issues, which we will touch on shortly in this presentation, as well as health, hazard, and safety issues for the public, court staff, and youth that were a direct result of the historic 2010 flood overstressing the entire plumbing system in the building.
As Lionel stated, the Juvenile Justice Center has been working through these plumbing problems for more than 10 years, causing the entire building to smell like sewage and making the children and the staff absolutely sick. Ultimately, the employees dealing with the most trauma to help the city's most vulnerable have to do so in a terrible building that causes additional stress. What you are getting ready to view is what no employee should have to endure at their workplace. As you can see in the words of Jane Taylor, one of our probation officers who works with both children and adults in recovery, we actually have on occasion human waste that comes up into the sink. What message are we truly sending to the families and communities that we serve? Now, this is what you see in this next picture. This is one of our recent sewage explosions of floodings that we had in our building. As you can see in that first picture, it's absolutely outside of an office area, of someone's actual office. And then the second slide, it's in the boiler room area of the building. And the further slides, this is literally raw sewage that is inside or was inside our building. And it's not an infrequent occasion. Miss Latana Williams began her career at juvenile court when she was an intern at the age of 14 and has worked there for more than 40 years. She counts at least 5 times that the building has been flooded. There's not enough space, according to Ms. Williams, for all of the employees of juvenile court to be housed in one building, which causes a problem for parents. Ms. Williams went further on to say in her interview that our judge, talking about me, is very big on education. And at the present time, the youth that are in detention on one grade level are being taught with the youth that are either at higher grade levels or lower grade levels because we only have 2 classrooms. This does not allow for the youth to spend a lot of time with the instructors or the teachers so that they can receive the education that they need for them to go out and be successful men and women. Now, I just want you to imagine yourself coming to work one day, putting your stuff down on your desk, getting ready for your second cup of coffee, picking up your cup and going to the area of the coffee machine and the coffee maker and the sink. And what you see is sewage everywhere, on the walls, on the floors, on the counter, and on the coffee maker. This is what our employees deal with on a regular basis. Our current building was built in 1994, and it was already too small for our city's projections back then. So now we are facing a potential disaster. A major issue with this space is that it lacks trauma-informed care for our children. And trauma-informed care calls for a change in organizational structure where an emphasis is placed on understanding, respecting, and appropriately responding to trauma at all levels. As you can see, one of our attorneys, Olin Winningham, who works tirelessly in this building, is always questioning, as we are, why are we paying repairs to put on Band-Aids when we're not fixing the problem? We have to be committed to moving our building forward and having a new juvenile justice center. One day this year, we could not come into the building from the lower level, the employee entrance, because of all of the waste and sewage that greeted us that morning at work. And as you can see in this picture, the building, the flooding was coming from one of the cubicle areas of someone's office at the bottom level of the building, where there is actually raw sewage within that area. Another one of our attorneys, Carlton Ross, practices in juvenile court on a regular basis. Now, our staff works hard to create the right environment for the kids to work through their trauma, but they don't have the resources or the space to do so effectively. The space lacks private rooms for our staff and attorneys like Mr. Ross to meet with his clients. We've had to turn closets into courtrooms. There isn't a private entrance for the judges, and the lack of security combined with a criminalized mentality increases the likelihood of detainees escaping. So even beyond having to give up workspace so an attorney can meet with their client, many times employees give up their own personal possessions and their work items because of the flooding. And both of these pictures are actual flooding pictures from this year of the flooded pipes and the sewage that we are greeted with on a regular basis. In this last slide, you'll see this is actually my courtroom. In the first slide, you'll see the spots on the ground, on the floor. In the second slide, you'll see the second and third, the spots from the flooding on the ceiling. How would you feel coming to the judge's courtroom on a very serious matter when this is what you have to look at as you make your plea to the judge?
This is Stacy Miller, district attorney and the juvenile court team leader. She says that if we have more space in our court, we can provide so many needed services to the children, staff, and community. Mental health programs, mediation spaces, space for defense attorneys to meet with clients and go over briefs, a respite program for children who try to run away and need a safe place to go, and informed care. Care calls for a change in organizational structure, where an emphasis is placed on understanding, respecting, and appropriately responding to trauma at all levels. We have the opportunity to do great work in trauma-informed care for the city. Chances are you're already a long story. Centoya was arrested and brought to Nashville Juvenile Justice Center at 16 years old. She was incarcerated after being convicted of a man who solicited her for sex. Now she's an advocate for prison, and she believes that the juvenile justice system should be centered on healing and rehabilitation rather than punishment. She said the goal of the Juvenile Justice Center should be to create a safe space where children can heal, where children can talk about things, where children can open up, and where they could be vulnerable with the people that are there to help them.
Now, what can you do? You can support our plan for a new juvenile justice center that is secure, safe, and trauma-informed.
Our new plan includes additional meeting rooms for attorneys to meet with clients and therapy sessions to support both the youth and our staff.
It also includes free parking and improved infrastructure and multiple entrances to increase security.
Most importantly, it includes a 24-hour so our staff can have a dedicated place to learn more about the child and get in touch with parents rather than sending the child directly to a detention center that can be psychologically harming.
This is the only way we can do our jobs effectively and ensure justice for Nashville's children.
And by prioritizing the Juvenile Justice Center upcoming, you're also prioritizing the entire Nashville community, because Nashville deserves more than just the bare minimum.
We need your support. Our staff needs your support. The community needs your support. And most importantly, the children and the families that we serve need your support. Thank you for your time and for your support.
At this time, I'll take any questions.
Thank you very, very much. This is inhumane. I just cannot believe it. And I think about that I've seen this before in the sense that the metro buildings that serve the poorest of communities are the worst buildings in Metro. When you look at social services and Metro Action and Juvenile Court Center, these are the worst kept or unkept buildings, and they just do not provide adequate maintenance. I'm concerned about the health of people acquiring diseases and illnesses from what it is that you all just displayed. I don't know this, but maybe it's something that we should consider. And Juvenile Clerk Matthews, you were a councilman for 8 years. Do you know if there are regularly scheduled building inspections for metro buildings?
Regularly scheduled building what? Inspections?
Yes.
Well, I know that General Services, they're well aware of the building. They have documented how to renovate and repair versus a new building. And I believe if you talk to Director Moore over at General Services, she will support our efforts to get a new building, because it's just not a costly and effective proposition to try to repair a damaged building when it's inevitable that we're going to have to replace it.
Absolutely. I mean, from what I saw, many days you go in there and it's inhabitable to even conduct any kind of business. And I know you were talking about some of the things that you all would like to see in a new building. You know, for many years, I was a CASA volunteer. So I also think you should add a room for your volunteers and guardian ad litans to be able to confer with some of their clients and and to one another before going into the courtroom, because I know that many times I would discuss things out in the open, in the lobby area, reception area, and when it was really confidential information with clients that I was working with. So if you could, make sure you add that to your list. I've got a couple of hands up. So Councilmember Stiles, I think I saw you first, and then Councilmember Toombs.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And again, thank you, Judge Calloway. Thank you so much, Mr. Matthews, for coming. My question is this. We know how financially strapped our city has done an assessment on what the cost would be to repair whatever it is that continues to burst. I know that it feels like a Band-Aid, but if we can't get a new building for you for next year, which it doesn't seem feasible, what can we do to help you next year so that you do not have to come to work with raw sewage? Those pictures are horrifying.
So, yes, General Services, again, as Lionel mentioned a few minutes ago, has done some work on the piping that has to be repaired and replaced. They put in, and Lionel have the correct language, they have put in some stop gaps, I guess, is some stoppers. So the sewage that comes down, whether it's from a toilet that's overflowing or whether it's from, a rainy day, there's some stoppages that they put in the system currently. And that has been done. They have replaced all of the carpeting on the lower level and placed in some flooring that will be easier for cleanup purposes. And so they have done some things to kind of put a stopgap in until a new building can occur. But literally the things that they have done, they recognize it's not a long-term fix. And there's not really a good, there's no need for for Metro literally to spend money on more money or on a stopgap when it really is. Not only is it the sewage problems, the piping problem, but it's a space problem as well. There's so much need for us in the building. And if I can add, Chancellor Hurt, you were asking to make sure that Caucus and other agencies, volunteers had space in the new building. There was a building design that was done in 2017 or 16. It might have been 2016. I'm losing track of how long it's been. But in that building, master building plan, there was definitely space for all of the agencies that we work with. And there were mediation rooms. There were definitely private attorney counsel rooms. All of those things were considered as necessities for building as we go forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilmember Toombs.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I have a few questions, and thank you, Mr. Matthews and Judge Calloway, for all the great work that you do in the community and for our youth. My question is around how far you've looked into assessing the cost around a new building. So have you scouted out any potential locations? How long would it take to build a new facility? The cost to build a new facility, as well as the cost to maintain a new facility?
Yes, all of that was done in 2000. I have the right time. 2016 or
2016. It was in the 2016 going in. Yeah.
Okay. All of that was done, and there is a master plan, and I believe the mayor's office has a copy of that. And the cost was a lot, but it was definitely worth what it needed to be. During the time period, there was also an assessment of where the appropriate places it could be, and they narrowed down the options to two different places. One of them was where the old Memorial Hospital is off of Dubex, and the other place was where National School of the Arts is currently placed on off of Foster Avenue. So all of that was done in the master plan, and we are more than happy to get you all a summary. The master plan is a very thick document that I'm not sure if I can. I guess it'd have to go through a Dropbox for the entire plan to come out, but we can definitely get the
we'll get it to Rosie so she can to them.
Okay, thank you.
And when you look at the master plan too, there was at the time, it was prior to Metro getting the grant to, and the Oasis Center and other agencies getting a grant to do housing for 18 and up, the homeless youth. And so we had a collaboration, and that was included in the master plan. So that piece is no longer needed because of the grant that was gotten to cover the 18-year-old homeless children. And so that cuts off a little of the price tag.
Thank you. Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you both, Mr. Matthews and Judge Calloway, for coming today and providing this information. I had no idea the kind of issues going on at the Juvenile Justice Center, and I appreciate you bringing that to light for the new council members as well. I guess my question revolves or piggybacks off of Councilwoman Stiles' question about what can we do now? I know that a new building is the long-term plan and need, but at this point, what can we do now to address those urgent maintenance issues that you have? And also, are there any COVID related issues or problems that you're having that we might also need to consider for COVID-19 relief as well?
Judge, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Again, yes, we have been working closely with General Services about doing some fixing now, and they have been Nancy and her team have been super on almost living at our building because they know they're going to have to do something each and every day. But they have been actively making repairs on the things that they can do at this point. We also did apply through the mayor's office and through the governor's. When the governor put out the call for additional funding for CARES Act, we did apply, and there's some of the things that we could get fixed now with that money. We did apply for that already as well.
So the application, you applied through the mayor's office as well as through the federal government. Okay, so I'll look back, and some of those repairs that you mentioned today are in that proposal. Okay.
Yes, it's been over to
Right, that's correct.
I believe finance was something. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I don't know if this is part of the answer that you just did, but I'm thinking new building. That's deplorable. I'm thinking new building and not just Band-Aids to fix it up now. So have you all looked at, I don't know that much about different grants. Have you looked into a lot of different grants or foundations? If that's something we can use, since this is the IT city, we have a lot of people here who have lots of money, and this would be a wonderful cause. Have you looked into any other things like that?
We have not necessarily looked hard into other grants until the CARES Act came out. We started looking to that thing, and of course that will not fund new building projects, but will fund things that you can fix. It was definitely something that, and I will be honest, I think the issue came, the building study got done when it was under Mayor Barry's, when Mayor Barry was still in office. And at the time, it was a hope that it would get funded that year. The second year, it was her intent to try and fund that. And then a lot of things started happening. And then Mayor Briley also put it on his agenda to try and do, but of course did not have the money during that time as well. So I think for the last couple of years, we've had the hope that it would be something that would end up being in the mayor's capital budget spending or the other plan, and just recognize that we just needed to step up our efforts and look elsewhere. And so I think we'll definitely start looking in the community and seeing how a partnership with some type of foundation might be helpful for us as well.
Thank you.
I think just another thing for you all really to consider is that where we currently sit is really prime real estate also. So not only how you fund the project on the front end, but what could Metro receive on the back end for prime real estate next to the Titan Stadium to help offset some of the costs of what a project might cost for a new building.
That's a very, very good point. I was thinking on those same lines of it being prime property right next to the Titan Stadium. But again, I don't want us to lose sight of my first statement about every agency that deals with the most poorest communities have the worst buildings. We have a Richard Fulton campus with a brand new building and a renovated building. And at the very least, we need to have something renovated. We're closing schools that could be used as temporary spaces that have much better facilities than obviously what you all are dealing with right now, until something can be built. But I too believe that this is deplorable, it's inhumane, and we need to do something. I'm ashamed that the city has not done something prior to now. And I think that we need to at least write a letter as the caucus and send it forward as we move to our next budget season in order to bring attention to this situation in a financial way. Councilmember Toombs.
I know the master plan was done in 2016, but has there been a recent appraisal of the land that the Juvenile Justice Center currently sits on? If not, Madam Chair, we need to request that an appraisal be done on that land.
I am not aware of an appraisal that has been done since the 2016.
Me either.
Because Mr. Matthews, you brought up I'm sorry, I was going to say Mr. Matthews brought up a really good point about it possibly being a good financial move for the city, given the value of that land and putting the Juvenile Justice Center somewhere else, but we need to know what that value is.
Exactly. But I mean, I'm thinking about social services and Metro Action, Bordeaux Hospital, you know, all of those. And these are, to me, part of a systemic racism that we've been experiencing and what we've been talking about here of late. And it's things that we've just become accustomed to and not really staying on top of it and addressing those things. And we've got to do something. If we can create football stadiums and hockey stadiums and soccer stadiums and bring all of these major league sports teams to this city, surely we can invest in our communities to take care of those that are in most need. Councilmember Styles.
You just gave a whole word number.
What'd you say?
I say you just gave a whole word. Escalation plate after that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick question. The stop gaps that were installed, when were those done, and how long did they say they would hold up before they get back into the same condition you just came out of?
Oh, you go on now. I was gonna say literally a month ago.
Yeah,
what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say the issue with our piping is that the size of the piping is inadequate, and really have a long-term fix, they would basically have to dig up, place all the piping, which is essentially starting from scratch. The stop gaps that they're doing is just to make the size piping conducive, so that it's not backing up, but it's eventually and inevitable that it's going to back up again. I could tell you the conversations I had with Billy Fields. Billy working and sort of the project manager when that facility was built. They were given, so there was one budget for the building, but the mayor at that time, they were given, and so they took a lot of shortcuts, and plumbing was one of the main shortcuts they on that building to try to bring it in under budget.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember Taylor. Councilmember Taylor, did you have a question or a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was muted. No, I just want to follow up and make sure that we, on record, before anyone has to leave, that we can put this to a vote, that we will send a letter for both a new building and prioritizing this in the capital spending plan, as well as asking, also sending another letter to each caucus to have an opportunity to visit with Mr. Matthews and Judge Callaway in their caucus meetings as well, to share. There's no more words that needs to be said. This should have been done. It needs to be done. The pictures explain themselves. We have professionals going in and out of a building in Nashville, Tennessee that is not adequate, that is supposed to be adequate and maintained by the city of Nashville, which we are all a part of. And we can't continue to do this. And as Madam Chair, as you stated, there's several buildings in this manner, but we don't have many buildings that have human feces in a place where we have children that we're trying to rehabilitate. This is beyond despicable, and the entire council, the mayor's office, everyone needs to be a part of this conversation, and we need to move as quick as we can. So again, I renew my motion so we can be on record to send a letter to the mayor's office as well as to every other caucus on council to receive this presentation. Thank you.
I second your motion.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any question or discussion regarding it?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Can we give ourselves a timeline on doing this letter and who's going to do it, and so that it doesn't languish at all? Councilor, in making the suggestion, are you thinking trying to put a letter together within a week, 2 weeks? What time frame were you thinking, and how can we assist?
Oh, I was thinking more like in a day or two. I mean, we have Rosie on the call, and I think that that something can be drafted based on the conversation and discussion that we have. And it doesn't have to be elaborate. I think, as Councilmember Taylor said, pictures speak for themselves. And with the information and the supporting documentation that we will receive from Mr. Matthews, I think it will speak for themselves of what needs to be done. So I think we should, if we're going to have a timeline, I think by the end of the week, we should be able to have something submitted to the mayor's office.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments? If not, then can we, may I have a vote? And I think I would like it to be a roll call vote. So Councilmember Styles.
Aye.
Councilmember Toombs.
Aye.
Councilmember Lee.
Definitely aye.
Councilmember Taylor.
Aye.
Councilmember Gamble.
Aye.
Councilmember Sepulveda.
Aye.
Councilmember Suara. Is that a yes? Councilmember Suara?
I'm sorry. I'm on another call. Yes. Whatever I
Thank
say
you.
yes to, it's a yes.
And yes for me. So if the vote is unanimous, and Ms. Hayes, can we make sure that we get a letter out immediately for the Minority Caucus to review, and we can submit? And Mr. Matthews, if you would send that supporting documentation, it would be awesome. What you presented with the
First thing
pictures.
tomorrow, I will do it first thing tomorrow, and if I can't, if it's send, I'll walk it across the bridge to roll myself.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you all again for providing us with that information. It's as I said, sometimes we get immune to it, not seeing it every day and not realizing that it's there. So we certainly appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And we appreciate you being resilient and still focused on your purpose of and mission of serving our youth, to walk over those things and keep pushing and keep going, I think is awesome. In fact, it probably would be a good idea for you all to give attendance on how your employees show up every day in spite of those conditions that they have to deal with. And just show how committed they are, because what you do is God's work, and it's not just getting a paycheck. It takes so much more to effectively do what it is that you do. So we thank you very much for that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you. Thank you so much for having us and for listening to us.
Absolutely. So you all, you can feel free to stay on, or you can leave. It's up to you. But Reverend Chris Jackson is up next with us, and we so appreciate your patience as you have endured the agenda that we have had, and we certainly appreciate you being here with us. And I will now yield the floor to you to give your, well, I think I'll just go ahead and introduce you myself, because I know that you are just such an awesome, awesome man. And I read you every day in my daily devotions. So he's not only an amazing pastor and prolific writer, but he is definitely a servant to our community. And he serves now as president of the Interdenominational Ministers Ministerial Fellowship, and he's also the illustrious pastor of the historic Pleasant Green Baptist Church on historic Jefferson Street. And I know that he is a founding member of the North Nashville Tornado Relief Coalition, and that is your purpose for being here today, and we certainly appreciate you being here.
And thank you, Council Lady Hurd, for your very generous words of introduction. And also thank you, Council Lady Stiles, for also inviting me to come and share. I will make it brief because I know it's the end of the day and everyone's probably a little bit tired, but I just want to share with you, some of you may or may not know that when the March tornado came after that was that several organizations were funded to assist the community in helping to help it recover. And there were 6 of these organizations that came together to form the North Nashville Tornado Relief Coalition. And Council Lady Hurt will probably tell you a little bit more about it, more in detail about what we've done since that time. But the organizations were JUMP, IMF, NAACP, the Urban League, Lee Chapel, and New Covenant Christian Church. And so since that time, we've actually been meeting weekly to organize and to strategize and to find ways that we can assist our community. Some of you may know that 80% of those residents who were displaced in North Nashville because of the tornado, they were renters. And so renters really have no real recourse. And so that's to me, one of the most glaring problems and issues in our community, especially in North Nashville, is the whole affordable housing. And I don't think anyone on this call would probably disagree with that fact. This past Saturday, we had a free food giveaway at our back parking lot of our church. And we also had a survey, and we passed out just, what do you need? What are the needs or the greatest needs? And so the top need that came out from the survey from about 73 individuals who did complete the survey was housing, affordable housing. And so one of the ways that we are attempting to get at that, other than the times that Council Lady Hurt will probably tell you about the things that we've done as far as repairs for individuals who've had difficulties because of the tornado. But I'm looking at systemic issues and systemic remedies for the issues. And one of the things that has come up, and I think that's what I was sharing with Council Lady Stiles about, was, some of you all may know, right next to our church, there is a funeral home, which was a funeral home. So what our plan is and our hope is through North Nashville Tornado Relief Coalition is to demolish that funeral home and then to build on it apartments, and at the bottom, a training center. And tentatively, it would be called a life lab. And so this, in short manner, what it would be is that we would have individuals come in, and individuals with the hope of and the intention of not just staying there, but after no longer than 2 years, to take them through a system of financial education, to job readiness training, through credit repair, and through readiness for home ownership, and through partnership with banks and real estate companies, actually position them after no more than 2 years to actually move back out and then have their own home. That's the plan. That's the hope. That's the dream. And we are scheduled. We have pretty much everything in order for the demolishing to happen of the funeral home. All we're waiting for is clearance from the gas company. We've all already had to go through the whole asbestos, all of that's removal, and all of that's scheduled to happen in short order. So we're excited about the possibilities. And one other thing, and I think that Council Lady Hurd, I'm gonna kind of pass it over to her to fill in some of the little spaces that I may have missed. And I just want to toss it over to her to take the banner, take the baton, and run on to E.
Thank you, Reverend Chris, and for all of the work that you do and for the vision. Yes, I do want to take on where you indicated that these organizations were funded. They were, I would say, modestly funded from the Community Foundation with about $30,000 on average. And it was the idea of me and Reverend Chris to come together and let's actually collect monies from each organization so we could do more for more people in the community. Because with us having the $30,000, we spent 2/3 of that money in the community, working with those individuals. And I know Reverend Chris did the same thing. So when you put the monies together, you're able to do much more than individually. So with those funds, we've been able to get 2 roofs put on homes. We've, for some people, we've had some major tree excavation going on. A lot of trees were damaging to homes, and they were blocking some of the pathways for people to even have in their yards. So we were able to do that. We were able to do some aesthetics and fencing and different things of that nature. So we've actually provided assistance to about 7 families in the North Nashville community. And some of those families had insurance, but insurance was not enough to really cover the extensive damage that many of them had incurred during the tornado. And I think that most of all, it was really important to show the collectiveness of how the organizations in this North Nashville community had come together. We actually have a concept paper to tell you exactly what it is that we're doing and how we plan to move forward in terms of creating wealth for those people who would then try to build their financial statements and their budgets in helping them to own their own homes. And I would like to say that we've also had a partnership with the Housing Fund. Marsha Crawford was very helpful in assisting us in some of the efforts that we're doing. And our fiscal agent for the coalition is 15th Avenue Baptist CDC, who also has several years, a couple of decades in doing housing. And we also have our monies deposited in the Metro Teachers Credit Union that's also on Jefferson Street. So this is a community effort through and through. And the one thing that I would like to bring to your attention is that I've mentioned that all of us received about $30,000, and we came together and put $10,000 each in this pot. But we have some other organizations that's received twice as much money as we've received, although collectively you're talking about 300 or 400 years of experience of those organizations and institutions and churches working in this North Nashville community. And you would imagine that there were more funds available to support. It breaks my heart to hear Reverend Ed Sanders from First Response Center and Metropolitan Interdenominational Church struggling to find a place, because his office was in my office, and we both had been, well, I had been there for almost 25 years, and Reverend Ed had been there for quite some time, and so had Kwame Lillard, and they have not found a new home. And for those nonprofits to be struggling, it's just irresponsible on the city. So thinking on that, just to give you an idea about the Life Lab that Reverend Jackson is speaking of, Connexion Americas, what they have over there at Casa Azafran is an ideal place for the kinds of things that Reverend Jackson spoke of. While that space on Jefferson Street where the funeral home is a smaller space, but there's also another venue that's next to it that he's been trying to actually acquire. So, and a lot of property on Jefferson Street has been sold lately because of the monies that's been offered. But I just want you all to think about us as a community and how it is that we don't have a business center. We don't have a training center. We don't have a place, a repository when disasters happen, like with the tornado. Lee Chapel opened its doors, and most of it was done there for the first week. Then you had New Covenant and Jefferson Street Baptist Church, and all of the churches were there hosting people, giving out food. We should have something in our community to serve our community. And with that, I think that there is also another strong case for us to look at our capital improvement plan, our capital improvement budgets, and any funds that we have that we can offer, and any type of leverage we have as a caucus to leverage to help in some very needed cases such as this. So I know that was a long lament about our community, but when you speak of North Nashville, I can talk all day long because it is neglected, and it is now it's a hot spot because people are coming in and they're buying property, and gentrification is live and well. So to that, that's one of the reasons why I was speaking about the CARES Act funding for nonprofits, because that money could help sustain some of the nonprofits that's been there for 25 and 30 years. So at this time, I will entertain any questions or any comments. Yes, Councilmember Styles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did you as an organization apply for, is it Pathmark? I guess, Councilmember Gamble, that's. Pathways, yes.
No, we have not as an organization. We have had individual organizations apply for that, but the Pathway Lending was specifically for small businesses and not necessarily nonprofit organizations. There was money geared toward nonprofit organizations that had come from United Way, but United Way had some restrictions on those funds, and it was limited to the funding that many of the smaller nonprofits received. And please keep in mind that many of these nonprofit organizations are grassroots. They don't really have the capacity to actually compete for the funds. When you've got a pot of funds, you've got other nonprofit organizations that have the capacity. They're able to come in, and they have developers, they have grant writers, they have people designated to go after that particular funding. So when by the time it gets to those community and local level organizations, you know, it's very far and few in between.
And the organization that you've created, is it a 501c3 already, or you're still in the grassroots?
No, that's the reason. No, that's the reason why we have 15th Avenue serving as the agent, the fiscal agent, because they have the 501c3. We also have a North Nashville consortium that focused on housing, for which the 15th Avenue served as the lead agency. And with that, we are able to solicit for grant funding and other donations that might be available for a particular purpose. But of course, this actually coalition was formed about in May. We all received funding. The tornado happened in March, and I think the funds may have come out in April and May, and that's when we decided to try to come together. And we've just been meeting, and I think we've done an excellent job in creating a vision and moving forward with it. And we've been actually in contact and made an offer to some property that we already have in North Nashville that could serve as a pilot project for us. And we're excited to see how things unfold with that project. But just wanted to bring all of this to the attention of the Minority Caucus and make it a part of record that these concerns are still looming over that North Nashville community.
Well, I want to thank you, Madam Chair, and also Reverend Jackson for coming and bringing this to our attention. It is a problem, and we do need to be supportive and come together and figure out how do we solve this. North Nashville has needs that haven't been addressed. I don't think this is the first time we're having this conversation in regards to North Nashville and the needs. So we've work to do for next year for sure as we start talking about the budget.
Thank you very much. Reverend Chris, did you have any specific ask that you wanted to make or?
Right. Well, right now, I'm waiting, as we said, we're waiting for the clearance from the gas company to actually do the demolition. And after the demolition, we will begin pushing toward raising of the funds from private entities, from other sources to actually raise the money to actually begin the process. And I just think it's just a win-win, I think, for the whole community. I can't see any downside of providing housing and to equipping individuals to help them get on their feet. It's like empowering them to be all that they can be. And then the actual training center will then be open for the community to use. I know that prior to COVID, our church was housing the NAACP's monthly meeting and then other organizations as well. And so it would be open as a training center for uplift for the whole community. And so it's just a powerful, positive win-win situation that I'm excited about. And I would just certainly, when we get to the point of crafting letters to go out to these businesses and corporates, and even also back to the community foundation, which raised $12 million and still has about $8 million to go. But there was some that they distributed $20,000 to assist in the demolition, but they could actually help to fund at least half of it. And so we will be going back to them as well. And so I would just appreciate the support of the Minority Caucus to craft a letter when that time comes. And if you have any other further questions, I would be open to receiving them as well. Thank you for listening.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'm driving, so I could not raise my hand.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Thank you, Reverend Jackson. Thanks for both of you for the work that you do in the community. I do agree that this is something we need to make a priority. My question is, can you share the results of that survey with us? I ask as the chair of the Affordable Housing Committee. I think it would go into some of the conversations that we're having in terms of affordable housing in Nashville, where they need it, what we need to do. And I think that we will find that survey very useful. Not that we don't know but something like that coming directly from the community, I think will fit into that conversation, and it will bolster whatever it is that we're talking about. One of the things that we're looking to do with the Affordable Housing Committee is actually talking to Anna Davis and looking at how do we allocate money, how do we decide which area it goes to, and things like that. I think the result of that survey will help us in that conversation. I wanted to know if you do not mind sharing that certainly the way you can.
Sure, I would be more than happy to if you would just let me know. Should I send it to Council Lady Hurd or where should I send it?
Is Rose
I
still
think
in
if you
here?
send it to her, that would be fine.
Yes, if you send it to me, I'll make sure that it gets to Rosa, and Rosa will disseminate it to everyone. But let me just add something else to that. So immediately across the street from this location is the One Drop Ink tattoo shop, which means that you've got some art going on right there across the street. And 2 doors down is the Tennessee Tribune, where Ms. Perry has had journalism programs for the youth. Then across the street, the Jazz Workshop will be coming. Then you've got Tennessee State, Fisk, and Meharry Medical College right there in a mile and a half distance, where there is direct feedership to and from that space to those institutions, and the institutions back to that space for any type of business center needs and becoming entrepreneurs and having that whole life lab. You speak of the agricultural department at Tennessee State University, and we got farmers market. We have to teach our children about food and nutrition and different things like that. There is a wealth of opportunity when we think of what we have here. Again, I just ask you to think about Casa Asafran and all of the things that we have there. Reverend Chris mentioned about the Community Foundation. They've given money to other agencies that are majority agencies, and they've come and they're working with some agencies in the North Nashville community, some new agencies, not trying to knock anybody and what they're doing, because they're doing great work as well. But when you speak on the Urban League and the NAACP that's been there for hundreds of years, and Pleasant Green Baptist Church and New Covenant Christian Church that's been there for hundreds of years. You know, you speak of Jump and 15th Avenue, 25 years, and the Metropolitan Teachers Credit Unit's been there for almost 50 years. You've got those who have been ingrained and have given their blood, sweat, tears, and their hearts to that community. They have their pulse on the community, and they should be those who are serving and receiving the resources to serve that community. So I think as the caucus, we've definitely got to push our own, because people get funding outside of it, and then they come into our communities and build and do what they want in our communities. And we don't have it, the capacity or the resources to do it. And that needs to change. So I thank you all for listening, and because I don't want to get too much on my soapbox about it. But Reverend Chris, I really thank you and appreciate you coming and sharing with us. And Councilmember Stiles, did you want to submit a motion for the Minority Caucus supporting by letter when the time comes?
Yes, I also had one more question beforehand. Yes. So you said that you're getting ready, once you hear from the gas company, to demolish the building. So you raised the funds to demolish the building, and so you're looking to start fundraising again once the building is demolished?
Right. We did receive, again, a grant from the Community Foundation to do the actual demolition. Okay. And also we had not only demolition, but we had to do environmental studies and asbestos removal and all of that. And so that is that part of it. That's that phase one. And so phase two would be raising the monies and the funds to begin the architectural and all of the actual building of the actual building after that.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And yes, when the time comes, I make a motion that we do a letter in support.
Okay, great. So I'm not going to say too much more, but look, I read an article today where there was, I think, $500,000 being given to replace trees in the North Nashville community. But we've got 85% of people who lost their homes in North Nashville, and we don't have the funds for them to replace their homes, for them to be able to find a place. We got folks who are homeless, but we're spending $500,000 on trees.
That's it.
And the Community Foundation gives money for such things, but they said that they cannot support capital projects. But you're tornado relief. Capital was lost. Homes, buildings, businesses, those are capital things. So I don't understand. And we've gone back and forth with that. But again, I just implore you all to help us change the way things have been done in this city. Because you're sitting on $8 million, and here is obvious need to change lives in that community. So if there are no other questions or comments, Reverend Chris, we thank you again for coming and hope you have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
As we, I know for our agenda, I don't think anything has changed on our treasury for there to be a report. And I know that Councilmember Vercher had to go to another call. But we also had on the agenda elections of officers, because all of the offices in the Minority Caucus are one-year terms except for the president. So I know Councilmember Stiles, you brought that to our attention, and we thank you for doing so. So I will entertain at this time. I know that Councilmember Porterfield is not here. She, as you all know, lost her grandfather and is in Memphis for his services today. Is there a nomination? Do we want to take nominations, or do you have a slate of officers that you already are aware of, Councilmember Stiles?
I just wanted to be sure that we were following protocol and making sure that we went through the process of doing the election of officers. So I'm open to anyone making nominations at this time. Oh, looks like Councilmember Gamble.
Yes, Councilmember Gamble.
Yes, as the current parliamentarian and hopefully, or maybe not returning parliamentarian, just wanted to make a recommendation or a motion that we take nominations by specific office, and we can start from the bottom and go up. But if we can open the floor for nominations for the specific offices, I think that would be prudent to do.
Okay, I wanted to be sensitive and respectful of everyone's time. Is everyone okay with us moving forward with taking nominations and moving forward?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we have positions of chaplain, parliamentarian, secretary, and Vice Chair, well, Vice President and Treasurer. So
Madam
1, 2,
Chair?
3, 4, 5, yes.
This may be unorthodox, but can someone hold two positions depending on what the responsibilities of an office are?
Now that I don't think that's possible by Robert's Rules of Order, unless you have two positions that are are connected through the bylaws.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would like to say before we start taking the nomination, and I want to be politically correct on this one, but I really don't think we need a chaplain position, and it might be something that we need to amend the bylaws for. Recognize that there are people we know, and I think that we should. I'm a person of faith. I believe in prayers. I don't have any objection to the prayers, but I think that if I'm okay with it, doesn't mean that everybody is, and doesn't mean that future people will be. And so at this point,
So are you saying that, okay, I didn't get your recommendation. Are you suggesting that we do not have a chaplain? Can you?
Madam Chair, point of order. A point of order, there is actually not a position of chaplain in the bylaws. There's the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and parliamentarian.
Exactly.
So,
right, but in our last term, we did create the position of chaplain, and I mean, we didn't make it formal through the bylaws, but we did say that we thought that we should have the position, and it was voted that we would. So I wasn't sure if Councilmember Suara was saying that we should or should not have the position.
I'm saying that we should not.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Councilmember Gamble, for recognizing and clarifying the fact that it is not a part of our bylaws to have chaplain. So we don't have that. It was just something that we chose to do in our last term. So 1, 2, 3, we have 4 positions. We have parliamentarian, secretary, treasurer, and vice president. And that's not in any particular order other than, I guess, alphabetically, huh? So the first position, yes.
I'm sorry, I was just going to suggest or from parliamentarian up or from the bottom up to vice president.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So it's parliamentarian, secretary, treasurer, and vice president. So that's alphabetically. So the first position that we have is parliamentarian. Councilmember Gamble has been really on this parliamentarian. I think she's done an awesome job, but I don't know if this has been a slick way for her to excuse herself from that role or not. But what I would do is open the floor for nominations for a parliamentarian.
I'd like to nominate Councilman Brandon Taylor for parliamentarian. This is Jennifer Gamble. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Jennifer Gamble speaking.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hurd?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but normally when we do election of officers, we give everybody 30 days notice, and this really wasn't noticed timely, so I didn't want to interrupt. I don't know if it makes any difference to y'all, but usually when you do election of officers, we let that be known 30 days in advance.
Okay. So we can do that. What we'll do. Go
We
ahead.
didn't put that in the agenda during the announcement, but what we could do is tonight, and for our December meeting, we could put in there that we will have election of officers. You know, we put it on the agenda. It really wasn't.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. I wasn't sure.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I believe that, and I may be wrong, Miss Rosie, I may be wrong. I don't know. Maybe it was not sent out. But I remember that even at our last meeting last month, we said we were going to do election of officers. So would that not, I'm just asking for clarification, would that not suffice? And also, can we do nomination tonight and then vote next week, next month? I'm just asking.
Now, I wasn't aware of that, but usually you notify everyone on the committee. Now, if you notified everyone on the committee at the meeting, I didn't hear that, but I mean, that's totally up to y'all, but I just want to make sure that everybody's notified so they have the opportunity to be a part of that. That's totally
Chair.
Yes.
This is Councilmember Styles. So we can split the middle. Could we do the nominations tonight and then do our elections at the next meeting? So we're still kind of following a process.
No, I know that's what Councilmember Suarez basically just asked, but my preference would be is to follow exactly what has been in place, what Rosie has identified as the process that has been normally used. I'd rather go through the form of notification. We will put it on, and anyone who's interested can make their interest known, and we can set a slate of officers for a position if we'd like to do that. And then we would have that slate of officers that we can vote on at our next meeting. And that will give people time to really think about the role and if it's something that they would like to do, and maybe even come up with some ideas of what they would do once they acquire the role in the position. So, Councilmember Taylor, you already know that your nomination for parliamentarian was a unanimous vote, even though we never got a chance to vote it. But everyone seemed to like the idea of you serving as parliamentarian. So we will definitely make sure that you're put on that slate as a parliamentarian nominee. Not saying that others cannot also vie for that position.
Okay, so
you have something you want to say, Councilman Taylor?
I accept the nomination.
Okay, well, we'll just put it down. It's not formal this time. We will do the formal notification, and we will have the vote at the December meeting.
So when we come to the meeting in December, will we have on the agenda, will we have the nominations will already be there, and we're just going to vote on who's on there? So we need to convey who our nominations are to Rosie prior to our meeting?
Yes, I think that would be easier for everyone, and it would be documented because she would, yes. Yes.
Thank you.
We can propose a slate of officers and then elect them that night. It won't take all night to do it. Just all
exactly.
Just by acclamation.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I don't have anything. I don't have the bylaws in front of me, so I just want to make sure, because I know a lot of organizations you can do that, but they also give an opportunity to be nominated from the floor. So I didn't know if our bylaws said that. I just want to make sure we were doing the right thing.
Yes, I do think that the bylaws indicate that one can be nominated from the floor. And like you said, typically, I mean, because that's the basic Robert Rule of Order, where you would actually have a slate of officers that may be presented, but it doesn't preclude you from being able to nominate someone from the floor.
That's
Thank
correct.
you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions, comments in regards to the election of officers?
Can we set a time frame on getting these nominations to Rosie? Can we send it by like in a week?
No, I would actually like it to be maybe a week before the meeting. That's usually the time that Rosie puts together the agenda. We already know, however, well, maybe we all don't know, but I know that Councilmember Suara was very much interested in the Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority and the recent disparity study. Doug Crulin, who is the CEO, had said he would come and talk tonight, but we really wanted to be able to prepare some questions for him and have a robust conversation. So we're going to move him. We moved him to December, which I think we could spend an hour, if not more, alone on the airport authority and the disparity study, because that's something that I've worked with over the past couple of years, and I can tell you that they give a lot of good answers, but when you actually dissect the numbers and you look through what it is that they're doing, there is quite a disparity in their contracting with minority companies.
So would we be doing elections first and then leaving the rest of the time so we would end with that?
No, I would take care of our guests first, and then we do the elections, with the minority caucus alone and not include others, unless you decide you all would like to invite the guests to come at 6:30 as opposed to 6 o'clock. Because I would not want them on the call or on the conference while we are conducting our business.
That would be my suggestion, so we can do, because it'll be December now, and we should have done this in September. So if we could just take the first 30 minutes and go ahead and do our elections, and then our guests can speak, and we won't have to think that there's additional business that we need to roll over at the end. That would be my vote.
Can you, I don't necessarily see the value of that. I don't know, beginning or ending would be, well, I would see that there is, I'd hate for anyone to have any type of discord or feel some kind of way because things may not have gone the way that they wanted them to. And I'd not like it to be displayed as we continue the meeting. So my preference would be is after our guest has come and spoken. Any other council members want to weigh in on the time frame?
Is that what we usually do? Don't we usually have our speakers first and then we take care of regular business?
We do.
Okay. Then I like that way, I think.
Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I think that it's okay to have the speaker first, but I also think that we should let Rosie look at Doug's availability. I think that if we give him 6 and 6 does not work, because I think today he couldn't attend because he had a conflict. And so if the time works for him to come in the beginning, I think that's the preference. But if it's the conflict, then maybe in talking to him, we can say that. I don't care one way or the other. I actually think it's better for the speak first. But I think if you're trying to accommodate somebody's schedule, then there might be some room for can you join us later if that works better for their schedule.
Well, actually, he was prepared to come tonight, but we weren't quite prepared, and he had not responded to this morning. He responded directly to me this morning, as opposed to Rosie. So we weren't really prepared for him, and I think that he will be accommodating to whatever it is that we ask of him. So I don't think Doug is a part of the I guess determining factor on whether we want to do this before or after. And I really didn't necessarily want to take a vote on it. I just thought that if we had more by a voice vote, voice vote, that we would just train it until after. So I think I'll just go ahead and make the executive decision that we will have it after our speaker on the next meeting. And I don't know if there's anyone else that the caucus would like to invite to speak next month. But considering that it's December and it's dead in the holiday season, I would prefer that we only have the one speaker in Doug, and we have our elections and we call it a night. Councilmember Taylor.
Works.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir, Madam Chair. I would
I'm
like to
sorry.
learn. Oh, no problem. I would like to learn more about the landfill, or have more conversation around the landfill in Bordeaux at some point. We don't have to do that now, but I would like for it to be discussed in the caucus.
Right. I think that is a good discussion. I know Councilmember Virtue said she had to get off the call for some kind of meeting in Bordeaux. I'm not sure what that was about. But I do think that the landfill is a big issue that needs to be discussed. Councilmember Stiles?
Yes, Madam Chair. So it's November, and I know that the Minority Caucus reception is usually in January. This year was in February. Got pushed back.
No, it's
just a
usually
little
in
bit.
February. It's
Is
usually
it?
in February.
Okay.
Mhm.
So can we begin to have a conversation about who we might be, what the theme would be and who we might be interested in getting, and kind of starting a little bit earlier? I can only speak for myself, but last year it seems very rushed as a new person. So.
Oh, no, absolutely we can, but rushed or not, it was the political event of the year. I mean, we had overflowing attendance. Our speaker was dynamic and it was great. So
yes, not taking anything away from it. Just want to start planning a little earlier.
Well, the thing of it is that we are still in COVID, so not sure how that will pan out. So it's quite possible that we might have to do something virtually. So yes, absolutely, we can keep things and start planning and thinking on what it is that we would like to do, for sure. Anybody else?
Yes, ma'am. This is Councilmember Flora.
Yes.
Want to say that I'm not interested in office, and so nobody should nominate me. But what I am interested in, which I just want to put out there in case nobody else is, the caucus budget chair was not a nominated or voted on position appointment, and so I would love to be able to do that if that is possible, if no one else is being asked or if no one is interested.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. Okay. I don't see any other hands up. Any other questions, comments? All hearts and minds are clear? Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate your time, and it was great speakers, and I think we got something good going. So Rosa, you and I will communicate in the next day in regards to the letter that we're going to put forward for the juvenile court center. So I hope you all have a great rest of the evening and great rest of the week. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Are we sharing that letter? Or is it just going out?
Oh, absolutely. We will share it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Motion to close.